And speaking of 2020, that may be for people who don't follow Virginia politics closely, an event where they may have actually heard of VCVL because you guys organized the massive protest in Richmond during that session, which did apply a lot of pressure to the legislature and probably ended up getting rid of the assault weapons ban that had been proposed. But as you mentioned, a number of policies did get through. Universal background checks, red flag laws made it through in that session. Republicans have since taken back the governor's mansion with Glenn Youngkin. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of him at the very least, even if you don't follow Virginia politics, as he's a well-known Republican at this point. And they have control of the House of Delegates as well, but not the Senate right now. So you've got a split legislature at this point, which means that gun policy hasn't moved much since 2021, right?
Right. And we do have the attorney, also the attorney general and the lieutenant governor positions. Now, lieutenant governor could influence a tie in the Senate, but we didn't have any ties she could break recently. But she was
because the Senate's at a two vote majority for Democrats right now. Correct?
Right now it is, yes.
And so this election is pretty high stakes then. And, these margins are pretty razor thin at this point. I think Republicans have a 4-seat majority in the state house, and then Democrats have a 2-seat majority. The governor's not going to change, so Republicans will retain that for now until the next gubernatorial election in 2 years. But that means the outcome of this election could be pretty significant, correct?
Oh, absolutely. This could allow us, if it goes well, to repeal and roll back all the bad stuff that happened in 2020 and 2021. Especially one of the things that people hate the most in Virginia is local gun control. We had strong preemption before 2020, and that got weakened. And so 17 localities in Virginia now have their own local gun control. They're banning guns in parks and recreation centers and government buildings at permitted events. By the way, we sued one of those localities and they lost over parks and permitted events. But that's a long battle. It's better to just repeal that law and put it back the way it was in 2019.
And we'll definitely get to more of those policy changes that you foresee on either side of the outcome of this election. But first, let's look at the election itself, right? We got razor thin margins. There's going to be a couple of races that ultimately decide control of the state legislature, I'd imagine. So what are the key races for you guys? Which races are you looking at as the deciders?
Well, there are several. One is Senate District 1. Most of the races we're concerned with are in the Senate. We think that's the area where we really need to tighten up and get a majority in that Senate. That's one. There's another one that we're watching that's in Northern Virginia. Another one that we're watching is sort of in the Tidewater area, and that's the 24th Senate District between Danny Diggs, who used to be the sheriff of York County, and then Monty Mason, who's currently in the General Assembly, who's a Democrat. Danny Diggs has always been very solid on guns. So that's a race that we're watching to see what will happen there.
Okay. So those are some of your key races.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so really, it really is going to come down to just a couple of these Senate seats, really.
Yeah. There's like four of them that we're watching carefully, but, you just never know with these elections. And the problem is people don't take these off-year elections seriously as they should. If the president's not being elected, then why do we need to show up? Well, boy, you better show up. It's a lot at stake here.